This month we'll look at some things that have some color on it in early fall, fruit, maybe some fall color and some flowers. We'll start with snowberry, this little dwarf shrub. Looks like a honeysuckle. It's in the same family, but it's not a honeysuckle. It's a native, little dwarf native shrub that gets its name obviously from the white berries, snowberry. And they'll persist in that color right into winter. Eventually something eats them, I don't know, songbirds, chipmunks, squirrels, but it's showiest in fall and early winter with its white, pure white berries, snowberry. Right next to the snowberry, right behind it, is Solomon's plume, also called false Solomon seal, with its late summer, early fall berries. If you look closely, they're pink mostly now and speckled, but they'll turn red eventually. And as they get heavier, they arch closer and closer to the ground at the right height for different creatures to eat them. It has a big white inflorescence or cluster of flowers in spring, but it really comes into its own as the color on the fruits develop in fall. Solomon's plume, also called false Solomon seal. Just going up the steps to the professor's quarters is a patch of blue cohosh. Two things here: the beautiful blue berries. I'm not sure botanically if it's a true, I don't think it's a true berry. And like some other fruits, grapes are the most common one. They have a little waxy coating, a little white waxy coating that wipes off, and it's darker blue underneath that blush or that waxy coating. Is called a bloom on fruits. So it has this waxy bloom on these blueberries. So they're outstanding, and they'll last well into winter. Things eventually eat it. I'm not sure. I'm guessing songbirds and squirrels and chipmunks. What's also noteworthy here is how dry they've become. We had a very, very dry, especially May and June, but not overly wet in July and August either. We had a nice rain the other day, a full inch, but by that time it was too late for some of these plants. They'll come back next spring, but typically blue cohosh has nice green foliage right up until frost, but not this year. Blue cohosh. And there's a cluster of baneberry or doll's eyes fruit right next to the blue cohosh. White, like the snowberry. Looks like a porcelain doll's eye. That's where it gets the name doll's eyes. It gets the name baneberry from the fact that the fruit is deadly poisonous. So this is one that you should not eat. But something eats it. One by one the berries disappear. So some bird or some animal eats, not all at once, just one or two a day maybe. But even after the fruit is gone, this red berry stem is called a pedicel on a fruit, a berry stem, stays behind for several weeks. So it had some color even after the fruit is all gone. So that's white baneberry or doll's eyes. We have two of the three goldenrods that are native on the property right here. Again, right near professor's quarters. First one, and by far the most common one, is Canada goldenrod. And that's the one that can grow in huge patches in ditches and fields, roadsides, fence rows. It's noteworthy for two things: how prolific it is and this nice bright yellow color. But people think that this is what causes their hay fever. By the end of summer, when it starts to bloom and into fall, people start with that problem, start sneezing and getting stuffed up. And this is what they see blooming. So they assume that this is the problem. It's not. Goldenrod pollen is too heavy to be carried in the wind. It's a bee pollinated plant. So this cannot cause hay fever. What does is ragweed. There are two different kinds, common ragweed and giant ragweed. They both have white flowers that aren't very showy. You don't notice them, but they're the ones and they grow by the billions, especially on the sides of roads. So it's ragweed that causes the problem, but this is the plant that gets blamed for it, and it's not right. It's a wonderful pollinator. It adds a lot of color in the fall landscape. So it's a good plant, Canada goldenrod. The other goldenrod right next to it is zigzag goldenrod, which has a much narrower inflorescence than Canada goldenrod. And it doesn't look at first like a goldenrod at all. It has much larger leaves, a different kind of flower structure or inflorescence. It gets the name zigzag from the fact that it zigs and zags, at each node, at each leaf node. So that's where it gets the name. A lot of plants do that, but this one got the name. And this tends to favor partially shaded locations, unlike other goldenrods, which prefer full sun. But this is a very common plant in emerging forest along the edges of woods, where there's some shade, but not full shade. So we have both Canada and zigzag goldenrod here. There's a third native goldenrod on the property, not common here, but it's here, is gray goldenrod, which is shorter and has kind of a arching wand-shaped inflorescence, also yellow. All goldenrods are yellow. But we have Canada and zigzag right here. There are two things on this. This is one of our native gooseberries. I think it's called northern gooseberry. Do not quote me on that, but I think it's northern gooseberry. Already showing some nice fall color, but also the fruit. On gooseberries, of course, the fruit has those prickles. They rub off, and it's an edible fruit. People eat it fresh, I think, but mostly they make jam and jelly out of it. But we're getting bonus on this plant, both color on the fruit or the berries, and on the leaves, the fall color. Northern gooseberry.